morning and welcome to another podcast of Iconic Freedom, The Formula. We are talking about setting standards for accountability and responsibility in this journey of personal development. Let each care for self and all will be cared for. So today I'm going to start off with showing you a clip from Megyn Kelly's interview with Dan Bongino this past week. If you get a chance, I would say, search this out on YouTube and watch it. It's over an hour, but they go through a variety of subjects. But the thing that I really enjoyed, I really actually enjoyed the entire interview, to be honest. But one of the things that I enjoyed was towards the very end, they talked about his health. And if you're unfamiliar with Bongino and his health, a couple of years ago, he went through a cancer scare. And the thing that I really wanted to kind of hone in on today is you can hear him talk about changing his life, that he had this flashpoint, if you will, where he, no longer cares about a lot of the other garbage that was going on in his life, but about taking responsibility. You can actually hear him mention this and kind of, elaborate. It's a little spicy if you're a person that is offended by, profanity. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're offended by profanity, well, you probably won't like it then. Anyway, it's a really good video, and it's pretty short. It's like 2 minutes. Okay, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about it after.
Say anything, but I just thought about the weirdest things going home. It struck me for the first time that I could die. Like, I just thought I was like immortal. I know that's dumb. We all have an expiration date, but I don't want to know what it is.
Yeah,
and I'm driving home to my house, and they're building this movie theater complex near us. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I'm not going to see my youngest daughter ever get out of grammar school or have a boyfriend or anything like that. And I'm not going to. This is like so weird when you think you're going to, the stupid stuff that comes to mind. Like, that's like the most serious thing ever, right? Your daughter. And then it occurred to me next, wow, I'll never see what that movie's going to look like, a movie theater. Like, this is the crazy shit that goes through your head. And it changed my life. So, people ask me now, they say, hey, you're pretty cavalier. You do your own thing on the radio. You got these beefs with all these people. It's because, pardon the language, I give zero fucks. I really don't. I don't care what you say to me. I'm living my life. I'm doing what I think is right. If I fuck it up and it's wrong, I'll fix it. And that's fine. But I'm not taking advice from some dumbass at some company. Oh, you need to say this or be diplomatic about that. I don't need to be diplomatic about shit. I got through that. And let me tell you, my life has never been the same since. Seize the day, man, because you have no idea how many you have left. When you come out of that MRI machine and God forbid someone tells you what that guy told me, you don't give a shit about your guest tomorrow on your podcast. You care about your kids, your life, your dog, your husband, and everything else. And that changes everything for you.
Was the idea that, you don't have to get to a crisis situation in your life in order to move toward accountability and responsibility in your life. And understanding that, it's these small bites, these small chunks that you kind of, devour through your day, through your week, through your month, through your year. And, in the aggregate, you realize that, I've changed my life from whence it came. You start to accept the reality, or you want to design the perfect lie and delusion that you want to tell yourself. Because when I've worked with clients before, when I was a counselor, I would have a conversation with them and I'd say, listen, you can leave my office right now and that's fine, but I'm going to be in your head, because now that you understand about accountability and responsibility, you understand about self-interest. Anything that you're doing outside of that is you just telling yourself a lie. And you can construct, a perfect lie to yourself. No one's ever lying to you. You are just refusing to hear or observe what the reality is. And how do you get there? Well, you got to get there by not being triggered in your emotions. Is it easier said than done? For some people it is. For some people it's not easy to be able to self-reflect, self-evaluate and self-correct in those moments where you feel like, you're about to go off on somebody because of the way they've been behaving. But like I have said in other podcasts, life is not happening to you, it's happening because of you. You placed yourself in a situation. I've had a couple of recent situations involving my work where I knew interacting with these clients from the very beginning that, this is probably not going to go great. And yet, I was willing to take on the responsibility of it. But what it does is, in hindsight, I look back at it, I already know when the flashpoint was. And then I have to own for myself, okay, the self-interest in my moving forward with it. For me, I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm not going to do that anymore. I gave it my best shot, as I got into a new job, but I'm not willing to go down that road again. And I accept the reality. And in addition to that, I look at what people are doing when they're creating that lie for themselves and that delusion for themselves, and they're ignoring things and they're compromising things, and the frustration that it can bring you in noticing just, my own frustration and other people, their frustration. Why go down that road? There's no need. When you see it at the flashpoint, you just walk away. You don't need to do it. And the more you do it, the more you clean that up for yourself. And the more you clean it up for yourself, the less you have to go down that road. And you move to a place where you do not choose inaccurately. You do not choose wrongly because you're paying attention. It's like having your spidey senses at 100% all the time. And it's not anything that you have to work at or, try to, effort in that moment, because you naturally are able to do this. And once you get there, and I like to look at my own life as an example that, I went from a place where I felt like I was unconscientious in my choices, and I was whimsical about, I kind of hate that word, but it fits for what I'm trying to say. But it was whimsical in that I was not thinking through what those choices were. And I was not paying attention to the lie I was telling myself. I knew I was lying to myself, but I wasn't understanding the impact of the lie that I was telling to myself. Does that make sense? So, when you go through your week, and this podcast is going to be short this week, but when you go through your week, think about these moments. Try to hone your skill for the flashpoint in your life where something is presented to you, and that you give yourself an opportunity to take a breath, step back, ask yourself the question, what's going on in front of me? And then realizing that, that you want to accept reality, and you do not need to design the perfect lie and the perfect delusion that you want to tell yourself. You don't want to construct a perfect lie to yourself and avoid personal responsibility. Whenever anybody is conducting and constructing a lie to themselves, they are avoiding personal responsibility. And I've mentioned it before, and I know it seems very simplistic. How can all of these things change by just doing that? I guarantee if a person does just that, they will start to see their life unfold very differently. They will start to see their life shift in the universe. If you ever saw that movie Doctor Strange, where he has these moments where, the universe starts to shift, and you see all of these buildings and everything start to turn. I want to liken it to something in that effect, is that in that moment, the universe starts to respond because it efforts towards that. It endeavors towards that. that which is accountable, that which is responsible. Listen, I didn't make it up. I'm just observing it. So I am encouraging you to make the same observation. Think about all the choices that you make. And I know that it can seem sometimes like, you're nitpicking every little choice, and you are. But in nitpicking those choices to pay attention to what's going on, you're actually teaching yourself something that you weren't taught as a kid, that you weren't taught as a teenager, that you didn't learn as an early adult. You're giving yourself the opportunity to now endeavor your life in a way that is much more easy and much more enjoyable. Because if all of it's working, well, then you're just the happiest camper there is, and you never worry about anything, and everything is terrific in your life. But I would venture to guess most people are dealing with things that they don't enjoy dealing with. Those types of things start to go away more and more as you get further and further into your own personal development. So if you get a chance, watch that entire podcast. I actually tweeted out something to Bongino about, because he said that was the best interview that he's ever done. And I actually tweeted something to him that, that actually was the best interview I've ever heard you on in the past. And, these people, they just kind of, they have so many followers, why are they looking at your tweet? But uniquely, he actually liked my tweet, which I thought was pretty funny. And it was pretty quick. It was like I gave it a like, and I made the comment, and I said that I hope life continues to bless him and his family and his health. And you don't wish poorly on people. Well, maybe one or two people, but you don't wish poorly on people. And it's amazing that he's had this self-evaluation and this self-correction. And I thought that was kind of cool. I thought, wow, okay, that's very interesting. So he is now, in a moment, in a second, part of my universe now, which I thought was kind of fun.
And we are at the end of another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Hit that like button if you would. Share this with your friends and family. You never know what they might get out of this. If you'd like to subscribe, feel free to do so. You can do that on the website, link down below. My email is there, so if you have a situation that you'd like me to cover on the podcast, that would be awesome. I'd be happy to do that. Send me an email. And if you'd like to be interviewed and tell your story about accountability and responsibility, send me an email.